Well, I want to welcome up a good friend of mine, a partner in crime. I've known him for a few years now. Met him at a. I think I met him at a. Well, I'm not going to say what the party was actually. It was an interesting party, but I met him. We've done great work. Took this club over, brought it back from the dead. We've been making some enemies online and in person, but it's been a blast the whole way through. And a lot of this would not have been possible without him. I want everyone to give a warm New York re-welcome to the guy who fled to D.C. A New York re-welcome to my good friend, Viswanag Boa.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you so much. I want to thank you guys again for coming out tonight. Through thick and thin, you've managed to make it through all the threats. Now, some of you know, some of you don't. About a year ago, I decided to take a trip down to D.C. and jump headfirst into the swamp. And I experienced a bunch of monsters on my way there, all sorts of dragons and all sorts of eels and crazy things with eyes, even some krakens, right? But I managed to bump into somebody, and when I looked at him, I was like, this guy kind of looks like me. And it turned out that he did look like me because he's a brother of mine, and I managed to grow into that relationship with him, and I'm very humbled that I was able to be his friend, and he advised me through many things and showed me how the swamp works, showed me how the crazy town actually gets things done or mostly doesn't get things done. And it was a learning experience, but I'm very, very humbled to have spent that time with them. And at this point, I just want to say that the fight is real in D.C., and we need more of you, as many of you in this room today, to come down and dive headfirst into the swamp the way I did. And I would like you guys to join me in that fight for years and years to come. So without further ado, I would like to introduce the firebrand from Florida, the pride of the Panhandle, author of Firebrand Dispatches from the Front Lines of the MAGA Revolution, the star of The Swamp on HBO, Congressman Matt Gaetz.
Oh, thank you all. Thank you. If this goes any longer, Nachman's going to give the opening prayer to Shabbat dinner. As long as I live, I will now be able to say that James O'Keefe was my opening act. I saw recently CNN Communications say that they have reported James for potential criminal activity. And one can only guess that they sought the counsel of CNN chief legal analyst Jeffrey Toobin. When James and Project Veritas had exposed CNN as their hashtag, that is not what they meant, Jeffrey. You guys will have to look that one up. I appreciate being here with Vish. Vish is my best friend in Washington, D.C. I'm not his best friend. But that's because I have far fewer friends. Vish was on the War Room pandemic yesterday. He was talking about our gathering, and I must correct one thing. He said, we'll have Gaetz there, and we'll have the great activist, James O'Keefe. And we, of course, know that James can't possibly be an activist because that would conflict with his other job. He is clearly a leprechaun. He is America's best leprechaun. He may be the tallest leprechaun I've ever met. I am so proud of James and the entire team at Project Veritas. They turn their truth-telling lens on the professional liars who toxify the mainstream media and pollute our country. Those mainstream media folks, I don't even think they lie anymore for profit. It's about power. But in our constitutional republic, the power resides in the people, and they resent the hell out of it. They no longer want to program the news. They want to program you. They want to constrain what you see and what you hear so that they can control how you act and how you behave. In America, we deserve leaders bold enough to take action, to confront our challenges head on as Americans do. And we deserve a media honest and objective enough to report the facts truthfully. Instead, we get the perverse opposite. Our politicians are husks of humans scurrying around Washington, D.C., acting busy. The truth is, they only act busy because they get busy work provided to them by our so-called leadership. They scurry around doing the bidding of PACs and special interests. Meanwhile, the media and their America Last allies in Silicon Valley grow stronger in their capacity to spread lies and bullshit. If the media in America today is the virus, then brave journalists like those at Project Veritas are the antidote. And I'll tell you the same thing I tell my Botox doctor. I'm ready for the injections. Now, Sarah Palin was supposed to speak tonight, but she bailed. I guess we can call her Bailing Sarah Palin. I still think y'all should give me the award you had planned for her. So if you purchased your ticket tonight under the impression that you'd be hearing from an over-sexualized right-wing populist politician turned part-time reality TV star, I hope you are not disappointed. While I can't see Russia from my porch, I saw the Russia hoax from the House Judiciary Committee. And I saw it clearly. You know, Russia has never mattered less in all of our lives. Our parents literally had to do nuclear fallout drills in their schools as a consequence of fear from the Soviets. And today, Russia is but a klepto-state and demographic tailspin, with most people getting the hell out of Russia with whatever they can launder or steal. Russia's two main exports are oil and models, and by the look of things, America's got plenty of both. Look around your house sometime. See how many products were made in Russia versus, say, China. Yet still some Republicans fell hard for the Russia hoax. Former conservative icon Trey Gowdy, the bumbler of Benghazi investigations past, said the FBI did exactly what my fellow Americans would want, and it had nothing to do with Donald Trump. Which means either Trey Gowdy lied, or Trey Gowdy was lied to by the United States Department of Justice. If you can even call them that anymore. More like Department of Injustice as far as I'm concerned. The DOJ is just like every other agency of government in Washington, D.C. The people who work there do favors for their friends, and they target their critics. Pure politics, no justice. I mean, think about it. Taxpayer-funded lawyers altered evidence in a secret court to frame the President of the United States. Top DOJ officials did the bidding of their spouses who were moonlighting for political campaigns. Rod Rosenstein openly discussed wearing a wire on the president to trigger the 25th Amendment. They are as corrupt as they are cunning. But whether it's the Department of Agriculture or the Department of Commerce or Labor or the EPA, this is what federal agencies do in Washington to protect and expand their power. And by the way, they're all becoming more powerful. We try to convince ourselves that the Department of Justice is different, that they're somehow exempt from the rules of Washington that say, help my friends and punish my enemies. They aren't. They're probably the worst. Just look at this last week. The Durham investigation was supposed to haul Brennan and Clapper and Comey and the rest of those criminals to account. Now, sputtering in transition, we know it never will. The coalition of radical leftists and establishment Republicans began the Trump presidency with the appointment of a special counsel to harass and delegitimize the President of the United States, all with Paul Ryan and the rest of the rhinos cheering him on. Instead of Durham issuing indictments, Barr just issued a memo converting the Durham investigation to a special counsel work product. Now we're supposed to accept that we're ending the first term of the Trump presidency with the same move they started with. It's nonsense. Keep in mind, they sent an amphibious assault attack team to get Roger Stone. They sent the Coast Guard and the Secret Service to get Steve Bannon. They sent Robert Mueller to get Donald Trump and Donald Trump Jr. And all we ever sent were reports and letters and memos. Low energy. It's pathetic, really. In the next term of Donald Trump, whether that begins in 2021 or 2025, maybe I should serve as Attorney General of the United States. I'd be easy on marijuana and tough on big tech. Wouldn't that be a nice reversal? If necessary, I'd fire every little shit kicker at the J. Edgar Hoover building and send them all packing. If you really want to drain the swamp, hire a Florida man. No more Southern, gentlemanly, Alabama, Jeff Sessions flavored, handful of howdy and mouthful of much obliged. That didn't work.
Let's go, Matt.
We've drained plenty of swamps in Florida, and we know how to finish the job. Just like the alligators in the Everglades, DC swamp creatures have spent seemingly millennia adapting to their surroundings. They can be very dangerous if not properly handled. But we know that the swamp isn't truly drained until the hides of the gators are hanging on the wall. Our movement is dangerous only to those who would sell out our nation for foreign interests abroad or special interests at home. In all we do, we put America first. Not foreign countries first, not multinational corporations first, and certainly not lobbyists first. I stand before you as the only Republican in the United States Congress who refuses all donations from all federal political action committees. Public service was once considered one of the noblest of professions. And sadly, more and more, it's bearing a striking resemblance to the oldest profession. Trading money for naughty favors. Judge harshly your representatives who pick up the PAC money in the nightstand. Our founding fathers did not pledge their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor just to watch our generation go and prostitute ourselves to some America Last highest bidder. Is there a single member of the United States Congress who can honestly say, when they take hundreds of thousands, sometimes millions of dollars from these PACs, that there are no strings attached? Would there be a single American who would believe them? America is precious, one of a kind, and you don't sell off something so special. The elites in both parties take a far lesser view of our country than my populist brothers and sisters. We understand that being an American puts upon us the obligation to preserve America, whatever the cost may be. They see the American people as an undistinguished pool of producers and consumers, just interchangeable parts, really. Why pay an American for a job a Chinese Uyghur chained to a sewing machine could do? It's why they craft trade deals that offshore jobs and hollow out our towns and cities for the sugar high that comes with satisfying short-term greed. If you don't believe that America is precious, unique in all of human history, you might be seduced into thinking that it can be replicated anywhere, but it can't. Bush, Obama, Cheney, Hillary, Cheney again. They all believe that we can build American-style democracies out of sand and blood and Arab militias in the Middle East. Meanwhile, China has been building aircraft carriers, skyscrapers, proficiency in artificial intelligence and quantum computing, You want a path forward? Let's summon this nation and let's go whip China's ass. Let's go beat them in tech. Let's go beat them in markets. Let's go beat them with a compelling vision of the world. I am tired of us putzing around in the Middle East while the Middle Kingdom grows stronger and more dangerous and more ambitious. The neocons in both parties have convinced themselves that beyond the tenure of every strongman dictator lies another America, just waiting to be inspired by the next generation of Lee Greenwood's God bless wherever-istan. Instead, we find famine, bloodshed, sectarian violence, and ironically, more of the terrorism that they claim to be rooting out. We inspire the world most when we are the best version of ourselves, not some expeditionary adventure force that has been trading the same villages back and forth, fighting the Taliban to a draw over the last 20 years. Moses wandered the desert for 40 years. We've been in Afghanistan for 20. If you put Nikki Haley and Liz Cheney in charge of our foreign policy, we'll break Moses' record. We'll be wandering there for even longer. Of course, the world will always have bullies, and Donald Trump knows how you deal with a bully. You punch him in the nose. And you give them second thought before they mess with you again. That's what the president did when he rightly took out Soleimani, al-Baghdadi, the leader of Al-Qaeda on the Arabian Peninsula. But what you don't do is you don't go move in with the bully and spend 20 years trying to realign their worldview. That's what too many of the so-called foreign policy experts would have us do. America is not an ideology to export at the tip of a sword to God-forsaken failed states. America is our home, and we must protect our home. We must keep it clean and splendid and wonderful. Democrat politicians guard their home with walls, but they wouldn't want to give that protection to the rest of us. Donald Trump has built over 400 miles of wall. We need to do more, but we have to match that policy with internal enforcement of our immigration laws in the United States of America. The Democrats want to abolish ICE. The corporatist Republicans want to ignore ICE. I want to give them the best technology in the world to round up and deport every criminal illegal alien here while singing Ice, Ice, Baby. As sure as I am standing here in what is undoubtedly a violation of some sort of lockdown edict, I know this. America is the greatest country that has ever existed in all of human history, and I am not fucking sorry. Don't ever let some spoiled celebrity or bratty athlete or socialist politician try to convince you that we owe an apology for American greatness and exceptionalism. Our ideas are so true and so powerful that those who would screw our countrymen see them as disruptive and dangerous. You see, the establishment in both parties will never stop coming for us, and so we got to start coming for them first. In 2016, they couldn't beat Donald Trump with actual humans at the ballot box. So they tried impeachment and the witness box. And when that failed, they ran to the mailbox. And they caught us unprepared. In 2020, we had the better candidate. They had the better strategy. We focused on why people vote. They focused on how people vote. Sometimes twice, sometimes in the wrong state, sometimes without even being born, sometimes from the afterlife. They put Joe Biden in the basement and their talented lawyers on hair trigger alert. We put Trump on the road while our lawyer's hair bled down his face. Fraud, much like romantic infidelity, must be caught in the act. Both are difficult to prove afterwards. Signs suggest that we will be facing challenges in the days to come. Joe Biden is already reaching for the trade policy of Paul Ryan, the foreign policy of Dick Cheney, and the immigration policy of the Squad. And the Republican establishment is working to reconstitute too. Just today, in the House of Representatives, the Republican leader released the Republican leads for the various committees. And in the committee that has principal jurisdiction over the internet, Kevin McCarthy today appointed Kathy McMorris Rogers, who is the loudest voice in favor of Section 230 of the Communication Decency Act, which our president is rightly working to repeal. You see, even when big tech is on the run, they always find allies in the Congress that they have bought. The light of true patriotism can shine, though, in the darkest of moments. George Washington wrote to the Congress in the gravest days of Valley Forge. He said, "We have no food, so now we must think." Washington then summoned patriotism and courage and creativity. And they crossed the Delaware River and carved out a nation, and they slaughtered the Hessians who have no nation. Though we are in New Jersey, it appears we got a river to cross too. And I just want everyone here to know, no matter what it takes, no matter how long we got to fight, I'm in it with you all the way. Let's go get them.